I don't understand the question.
It all came crashing down for NAACP Spokane president Rachel Dolezal, who has been portraying herself as a Black woman for the past 10 years. Confronted by a reporter, her parents are now calling her out. Ethnicity, the elders say, is Swiss, German, Czech, and some Native American. They provided this photo of Rachel as a young girl on the left. On the right, here's what she looks like today.
Seemed like she was just doing more of a artistic, expressive representation of her identifying with African Americans by doing her hair and extensions and things like that.
So today we're going to talk about, why do multi-ethnic, biracial people feel the pressure to identify as Black? I thought about this because as we start to move into 2024 and we start to see more and more of this racial animus, this fake racial hustler activity start to take place because of the election in the upcoming year, I want to take a step back and have a serious discussion about ethnicity and race in America, especially from a biblical perspective, because in Acts 17:26, it talks about how from one blood, God created all of us. God created all of us from one blood. So there's no different race. There's one race, the human race, and we have multiple ethnicities. So I thought about this because, as you saw in the previous video, you have people that are white that pretend to be Black, like Rachel Dolezal. But then you have people who actually are mixed, which I don't like that word, are biracial or multi-ethnic. Now, full disclosure, my children are multi-ethnic. My wife is Pakistani, and so my children are multi-ethnic. Do I identify them as Black? No, I don't. They are multi-ethnic. They celebrate their entire spectrum of their lives, not just the quote unquote Black side, because who knows if I'm 100% Black? We don't know that. Nobody knows that. But you want to know where that Black rule comes from? It comes from the one drop rule. And do you know who created the one drop rule? The white supremacists that these so-called Black liberation folks are looking to free us from, the oppression of these folks. Let's look at the history of the one drop rule. The one drop rule was a legal principle of racial classification that was prominent in the 20th century United States. It asserted that any person with even one ancestor of Black ancestry, one drop of Black blood, is considered Black, Negro, or colored in historical terms. It is an example of hypodescent, the automatic assignment of children of a mixed union between different socioeconomic or ethnic groups to the group with a lower status, regardless of proportion of ancestry in different groups. You understand that? That means that they are automatically assigning you to a lower status. That's why they did this. That's why they had the racial classification, because if they could identify you as having one drop of Black blood, because in their minds, this is white supremacy. This is white supremacist. In their mind, if you have Black blood in you, then you are automatically reclassed to a lower status, because in their minds, Black is a low status. And that's what they use to classify people back after slavery, during Reconstruction and in the Jim Crow era. See, this concept became codified into the law of some U.S. states. I can name some: Virginia, for one, some other states. I saw Arkansas has it. In the early 20th century, it was associated with the principle of invisible Blackness that developed after the long history of racial interaction in the South, which had included the hardening of slavery as a racial caste system and later segregation. Before the rule was outlawed by the Supreme Court in the Loving versus Virginia decision of 1967, it was used to prevent interracial marriage and in general to deny rights and equal opportunities and uphold white supremacy. That one drop rule was used to separate the races and to denigrate anybody that was mixed or biracial. So why do we have people going around identifying themselves as only Black when they are biracial or multi-ethnic? And you have numerous examples of this, from President Obama to Colin Kaepernick to other people, mostly light-skinned. They go around and they only identify themselves as Black. And the problem is the pressure that comes on these people, these are the ones that are promoting the most vile and racial separatist ideas. Look it up. The people that promote the most racial and keep up the most racial animus are usually children of mixed race, because they're trying to prove their blackness. They're trying to prove their black card. As a matter of fact, they got mad at Sage Steele for saying this about President Obama.
They were wondering, they're like, why is it so important to you to say that you're biracial? I'm like, because my mom's white, she's Irish Italian, and my dad's black. And I'm like, why not? Like, I actually feel like I have the best of both worlds. Barack Obama chose black and he's biracial. I'm like, well, congratulations to the president. That's his thing. I think that's fascinating, considering his black dad was nowhere to be found, but his white mom and grandma raised him. But hey, you do you. I'm going to do me.
And people literally got upset with Sage Steele for saying that. She got called all kind of vile names for simply saying that she was questioning why President Obama, who was raised by his white mom and his white grandparents, chose to identify as black. Well, we know why President Obama chose to identify as black, because he recognized that was the fastest way for him politically to achieve the heights that he achieved. And respect to him. He recognized that. He recognized that he could play that role and achieve what he could achieve by playing the black card. But why do people who are multiracial, who are biracial, feel that pressure from the black community to identify as black? It's as if you can't celebrate your entire heritage. If you come from a Pakistani background and an Indian background and an Irish background, along with your black background, what's wrong with saying that you're biracial? You see all these people who have biracial blood, who have nice curly hair that can't be braided like regular traditional African hair, trying to do all this stuff to prove their blackness. They have an identity problem. They have a problem because they're allowing outside people, outside influencers, to dictate how they live their life. That is not conducive to living a life that's fulfilling, because what that does, you're constantly judged by other people. You constantly judge yourself based upon the reactions of other people. So I'm here to say, no, if you're multiracial, if you're biracial, be biracial. Don't just identify yourself as black, and don't just identify yourself as white or something else. I wouldn't expect my children just to identify themselves as Pakistani. No, they identify themselves as who they are and who God created them to be. They should not feel any. I remember one time they were about to be enrolled in this school. It's a predominantly black school. And the administrator there was talking to my wife, and she was going to list their race or ethnicity. And she was talking to my wife, and she said, oh, the dad is black, right? And so the lady was going to put down black as their race. How disrespectful was that to my wife, that she would decide to put down black as the children's race? Why can't you put multi-ethnic? Why can't you put biracial? But see, what that is, that shows you this underlying caste system that exists in America and exists in the black community. Black people have bought into this white supremacist notion that being lower is okay. That being lower than is okay. That black people are lower than and white people are higher than. They have bought into this victim mentality that permeates the black community through rules, through subliminal ideas like this one drop rule that people subscribe to. And biracial people and multi-ethnic people feel they have to verify their blackness, so much so that they keep up all the mess that we're dealing with a lot here in America. They're the ones pushing a lot of this stuff, like Sean King and people like that. They're the ones pushing all this racial stuff, all this oppression, all this Marxist, all this victim mentality stuff, all this racial grievance stuff, all this reparation stuff. Most of the people pushing that stuff are folks that identify as biracial, but they choose to be black because they want to validate their blackness in the black community. They don't want their black card taken. Well, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do that. Be who God has created you to be and celebrate that and bask in that and enjoy that. Don't let people put pressure on you to make you a victim. We're not victims. We are empowered for greatness.
Hey, I want to say, if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button and click subscribe so we can get this message out to as many people as we can to let them know that they're not victims, they are empowered for greatness.